Hey everyone, as you're all very well aware, the pandemic sent shockwaves through the commercial real estate market. And here we are, 5 years later, with a bit more perspective. Self-storage and industrial properties got a lift from the pandemic. Retail took a hit, then bounced back stronger. Hotels took it on the chin, but have made steady progress toward peak pre-pandemic performance. Apartments held tough through the pandemic, then they got a big lift as the health crisis ended. But office has been challenged. First by the pandemic, then by changing behavior as many employees continue to work from home, at least on a hybrid basis, which ultimately reduced office space demand. Now, some people watching this video may be thinking, I don't invest in office, and then they tune out. But remember, office space demand strongly influences where people live, where they go shopping, which hotels they stay at when they're traveling on business, where they dine out, and where they play. So office space demand can play a big role in the performance of surrounding commercial real estate. When the pandemic hit, office space demand fell for 5 consecutive quarters, vacating about 180 million square feet. That took the vacancy rate from 12.3% in the first quarter of 2020 to 15.5% in the second quarter of 2021. But the ripples didn't stop there. Over the next 11 quarters, many had negative absorption, pushing the average vacancy rate to a peak of 17.2% in the first quarter of 2024. So has the office market finally turned? Well, you have to peel back the layers and drill deeper. The suburban office market fared better than the urban core as a whole. In the first quarter of 2025, the suburban office vacancy rate was 16%. Comparatively, the central business district vacancy rate now stands at 19.2%. But both urban and suburban office absorption have been positive for the last 4 quarters. Now, as I've mentioned in the past, smaller, newer suburban office properties have fared best. The average vacancy for that segment is 11.2%, while large, older urban office towers have faced the most challenges. That vacancy rate is currently 26.7%. But performance varies greatly on a metro by metro basis. It's a real patchwork across the country. Performance has largely depended on migration patterns and job creation, but state and local policies have also had a significant impact. The Dallas office absorption has been positive for the last 6 quarters. Charlotte space demand has been positive for 5 quarters. New York City, the largest office market in the country, has had 4 quarters of positive absorption, taking the vacancy rate down to 15.3%. That's 250 basis points below the peak vacancy set in the second quarter of 2023. Chicago has been positive for 4 quarters, as have Houston, Miami, Tampa, Orlando, Atlanta, Philadelphia, St. Louis, Sacramento, and the Inland Empire, which, incidentally, has the lowest metro vacancy rate in the country at just 7.9%. But on the other side of the equation, several markets still face headwinds. Oakland has had negative absorption in 10 of the last 12 quarters, and San Francisco's space demand has been negative in 10 of the last 13 quarters, resulting in a current vacancy rate of 27%, the highest in the country. But I do want to point out that the momentum in the Bay Area may be turning the corner. The vacancy rate has nudged lower in each of the last 3 quarters. Meanwhile, Boston still faces headwinds, with negative office space demand running for the last 9 consecutive quarters. So each metro has its own reality. Some markets, like the Inland Empire, Las Vegas, and Miami, have vacancy rates on par with or even below where they were prior to the pandemic. But most markets are still recovering. Looking forward, vacancy is expected to taper further as construction remains limited and we continue to see an increasing trend of employees returning to the office. That said, recession risk has been rising. Historically, when unemployment has risen, office demand has slackened. But this year, it's possible that rising unemployment could drive more employees back to the office, actually lifting space demand. But there's a lot of uncertainty. much will depend on trade policies and the unique characteristics of any impending economic downturn. Our baseline forecast suggests modest gains in space demand this year, but a lot of the variables are still up in the air. That's just one more reason why investors always need to keep their eyes on the horizon.